All right, folks, we're here at Pickwick Lake. It's summertime, hot, when most people want to start getting off the water because these really warm days of summer are coming along. It's got the water temperatures hot on most of the lakes, reservoirs. One of my favorite things to do in the hot summertime is go ledge fishing, and that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to break it down for you guys, go into the steps, the baits, electronics, just the thought process of ledge fishing. We'll talk about it more here in just a little bit when we get on the water. We got some friends of mine here, and we're just going to go out there and have a good time. But ledge fishing is what I like to do when it gets tough. There's current out there, and that's where we're headed. And let me just go into the term ledge fishing. You know, that all originated around that Kentucky lake where there's actually a river ledge, but it's offshore fishing. We just don't use the term offshore because it gets confused with saltwater fishing a lot of times. So ledge fishing just kind of, I don't know, it brings it home to where you're fishing out off of the bank for fresh water on our lakes around here, reservoirs, rivers, whatever. It's offshore fishing. It's fishing points. It's anytime the fish get out off of the bank. We all know that a willow tree is going to have a fish around it. If you see it, you throw a worm or a jig or something in there, and that's the high percentage area on the bank. Well, those same things that you see on the bank, the trees and things that we can see right here, the logs, that's cover. It's not really structure. People think that that is structure. The structure is how this river system and how this lake is built underneath, and that's what we're going to be keying on. That's ledge fishing. That's where these fish migrate. It gets so hot up there they can't get any oxygen, or a lot of the bait starts to leave because they're going out here and getting in the current or getting down in those cool pockets that you feel when you're out swimming. Those thermoclines, that's where that cool pocket hits your toe, and that's where the fish come out off the bank and they get out on this offshore structure. Again, it's not cover. Cover is that log right there. So we're going to go out and we're going to cover this offshore structure. We're going to look at our electronics, and we're just going to kind of get in depth of the term ledge fishing. Y'all stay with me. We're at the first big point coming off of what I would say just some shallow fishing, some spawning bays, a lot of trees, shade, all that kind of stuff. Well, when on the Tennessee River especially, or in a lot of places, these fish will come off the bank and they'll get out near the deepest water, or in this instance, there's a river, so there's flow and current. This is a TVA body of water. It's power generated. So as they need power, they'll generate this current, and that's what those fish key in on. That's what even the bluegill and the crappie and all their forage, the shad, the threadfin shad, the yellowtails, all that, the gizzards, it all gets out here in the current. And this is the first big point right here, as you can see, before it drops off into the river system. And I've got my depth shading on to where I know that 10 to 15 foot is green, 15 to 18 is orange, 18 to 24 is blue. And you can set your depth shading up, or you don't have to use depth shading. It's just a way that I can quickly, if I'm catching fish in 18 foot of water, I can set back and I can hit all these high percentage areas, whether it's a point or whatever in that particular depth range. But as this last point comes out here and forms a point, I am idling, and as you can see right now, I feel like those fish are on the deepest point. They're on the deepest drop. Well, look at my side view right here. There's shade off of that, so I know that that's the deepest point right here, and I'm up too shallow. I really need to be idling right there on that break. So we're up a little too shallow. We just move out and we get more over on that break, and as we do, you can see one fish right there on the bottom. And I can see it over here on my 2D as well. There's a few more fish starting to show up right there, right on the break. So as I got out on the edge, just a little bit more where it dropped off, started seeing a few fish. Now that's not enough fish to get my attention. I want to see a lot of fish, but for the sake of idling and showing you, getting more in depth with ledge fishing, that's what we're looking for. That is a prime time location. They weren't there right then, we've got a whole river system to go look at, and we're gonna do that. We're gonna get into some fishing. We're gonna get into some baits and my equipment and all that type of thing. But that's what you're doing. You're trying to get in a high percentage area. That straight ledge going in, there may be a few scattered fish on it, but where they want to stack up is a high percentage area, and that's what we're going to be looking for today. And I hope to be able to stumble onto a big old school and us catch some fish for you. But that's ledge fishing, spending a lot of time here, less time up there while you're hunting. And that's what we're doing. We're hunting just like we're whitetail hunting or anything else. You go in the woods and you find those migration routes and you find those high percentage pinch points. That's exactly what we're doing with ledge fishing right now. We'll find them. Here we've just came out on the very tip of this thing, the deepest part of it, and I just rolled up on it. As you can see, I can go back and I marked a little wad of fish right there. Now that's, as you can see, that's 15 or 20 bass right out here, right on the drop. And I can go out here, I can push right on them, I can hit an icon, and you can see right there, well, that's a tree. That I'll go back, and right here on my symbol, I'll go back, and on my symbol, I'll move it from that tree, because the last thing that I marked somewhere else on the Red River where I was at, I marked a tree. But I want to move that to a fish. So I hit my fish emblem right there. Now I know that that's where the fish are that we just marked. I'm gonna spin my boat back around and I'm gonna make a few casts right there on that red deal. As you can see, I got a scale right here coming off, and that's in 10-foot increments. So I know that I've got a scale, I've got my mark. All I have to do is spin my boat back around, make a few casts, and that's what ledge fishing is. I'll make 4 or 5 casts. If I don't get bit, I move right on. Those fish are down there, and if they're feeding, we'll catch them pretty quick. If not, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time with them, because they've got a whole river system full of fish. All right, we just marked those fish, and first cast I make usually is going to be with a swim bait, and that's just because, I mean, it's a 1 ounce squadron head. I can stay back off of them a long way. I can cover different water columns. I can kind of suspend, if they're suspended, I can reel it over the top of them. I can slow roll it down on the bottom of them. So usually the first cast is going to be with a swim bait, and then I kind of go from there. Get lined up on them. Again, you have a scale right there. You have your little line in front of your boat icon. That may not be just dead on it, but fairly close. Let it go all the way to the bottom, first cast, and just slow wind it in. And if there's a really aggressive fish or school, they'll let you know pretty quick. Boat's in 35 feet of water. Those fish were in about 25 to 26. There's a little current going, because I can tell it's pushing me towards them. See, that's real important. I just looked up there and I saw a minnow bust on top, or shad. Usually when you're in a place that's got several fish, you'll start to see some type of life start to see them busting, you start to see shed. All right, my next cast is gonna be straight on the bottom, dragging through them with a jig or 8-inch bull worm, some type of straight tail worm. The current's really pushing me. It's hard to use your spot lock whenever there's current pushing you that way. If the current was coming down downstream, it would be real easy. I got a really good lineup with my scale here on that spot, and I really like a 1-ounce football jig when I'm fishing out deep like this. I started out 3/4, and that's what a lot of people throw is a 3/4, but the 1-ounce Strike King football jig is my favorite, and it's just simply because it gets down there. I mean, I can just be more efficient offshore fishing with that 1-ounce jig. It gets there quick. Just do what you need to do, covering water with it a little better. A lot of time, there's aggressive fish feeding somewhere. Don't waste a lot of time. I could pull out a drop shot, maybe catch some small ones there, or maybe a big one, but we're looking for a school of fish where we can make some hay pretty quick. And that's the way I've been successful, you know, trying not to spend a whole lot of time with just a few numbers. Go and get on some aggressive fish somewhere and try to catch some big ones. See, there's some bait, just bait balls. One individual fish right there, nothing that we want to stop and spend any time on. All right, again, we just marked a few fish. We're first cast swim bait. There wasn't a lot there right then. This still isn't a size school that I want to concentrate on, but I have caught some big ones right here, so I wanted to make a few casts on it to see if we can't catch a big fish. More of what we're trying to do today is illustration and kind of teaching, not so much spending all day trying to catch a great big one, but it would be nice to do it both. A lot of times it's just 1 or 2 casts with the swim bait, and I can tell because I know I came right through them. I can tell if they're aggressive. They don't eat that. They're not in the kind of mood that I really want them in. But then again, I've seen a lot of times where I can throw a football jig in there, or a hair jig, or 8-inch bull worm, or something like that, and they just want something on the bottom. They're not keyed in on shad, or they're more on bluegill or crawfish. And wear a bait like this, just catch them. As you can see, I'm throwing a 10XD here. I'm throwing the Magnum Ledge Series crankbait rod, BB1, oversized handle, which I really like on the throwing a 10XD. Just gives you a little more torque. But I like the BB1, no anti-reverse, gives me more sensitivity, and David Fritz uses it. Enough for me. Best crankbait fisherman in the world uses it. I use it. All right, a lot of times people might want to know, well, how do I graph? You know, I don't know where to graph on an area. Do I fish it up shallow? Do I go out deep? Or or what? Well, my answer would be all of the above. And like, this is a rounding hump right here. I want to cover the crown of that thing, and then I want to cover all the rounding edges. I just idled over this little corner right here, and you know, it's just a little nook, and I marked a few fish. I put a waypoint, but I idled the edge, and I came off right at the tip. And I always want to cover the hard, like, you can see it right there, the contour lines kind of blend in with my depth shading, but it comes to a point like that, and these fish are just right on the inside part of that point. But I want to cover the inside draw, I want to cover the rounding edges, and any kind of tip. I can't stress that enough. The tips of these things, where they drop off into the deepest water, that is a big key. Now these fish, there's so many fish here. If you look, I can back up, that could be carp. The Tennessee River is just bombarded with carp right now, and that could be carp. If that's not carp, we're fixing to have a good time. What I just switched to is a little bit more of a finesse-y swim bait. If they're in a pressured mood, this little swim bait sometimes catches them. But that's the thought process on a ledge. You just kind of think like, okay, what is it? The weekend pressure? Is it no current? Is it is there just not enough of them? What's the deal? And that helps you to I just had one push it, so this could be white bass. If they were carp, they wouldn't be biting at all. But what I'm getting at is the attitude of the fish. You got to read them on your graph, and that helps you to determine how you want to fish for them. There's a lot of suspended ones right here. They're coming up. It looks like spaghetti noodles. All like, can y'all see them? Can you see them back there? There's just a lot of fish on the graph. And when you're not catching them, that tells you that usually that's not bass. When there's a lot of fish like that, that first cast with the swim bait, y'all would have got to see my Team Lou's Custom Pro Ledge Series swim bait rod get bowed over. Make a couple more casts with this worm. I would like to catch one, kind of show y'all. But really, our main purpose for doing this is just to educate people on ledge fishing and why I designed this lineup of rods. And that's why I want that stiff backbone on the ledge jig worm rod, because I can get that hook set. Because I got a giant on here, folks. I'm telling you, this is a daggone good. You know, it takes some beefy equipment to be able to land these hogs like this. But that fish was swimming towards me, and I had to double hook set, you know. If it would have been a good one, I could have done it because I designed this. We'll talk about the rods more later, but this rod has got a nice backbone just for that, making a long cast and be able to, it's not necessarily for, I want a stiff rod, it's for being able to set the hook way out there, because it's got a nice tip on it. You can do a lot of things. It's a very versatile rod. But it helps you to get that hook set way out there on those long casts, which is, I mean, when I'm throwing a 1 ounce jig, I may be setting a hook a country mile away. I just came right through one of those stumps. That little bitty fish hit it, but you know, some good ones that live out there. Just because you're catching little ones on the Tennessee River doesn't mean you're necessarily in the wrong spot. I think a lot of these big fish, there's another one. A lot of big fish are living right in with those small ones. This is another small one. But you can, it wouldn't surprise me one bit to throw back out there and catch a 4 or a 5. But that's it, man. We just idling, looking for these little wads of fish, turning around. And people say, well, you may be saying, well, why didn't you just told me to throw, you like to throw a swim, you know. Each place is a little bit different. There's some places that I won't even pick up a swim bait. I may pick up a hair jig. It's because I've caught them on a hair jig there in the past. And as you do more ledge fishing, you'll get to have more confidence in different. When you see a fish, a school of fish, there's another one. There's a pile of little ones there. But this is why I like the ledge. See that stiff backbone right there in the middle allows me to get a hook set way out there. Now we've caught fish, small fish. Let's just run the gamut. Let's try this football jig out there. Same rod, again, ledge, jig worm. That 1 ounce jig, I want that same backbone right through here on a long hook set. And this is a big profile. I mean, it looks like a bluegill, crawfish. So a lot of times this might trigger a big one. Make a couple casts with this. If it doesn't, change it up. I do believe there's a big fish sitting down there in that little water fish. I think I'm just a little bit to the left of where I need to be. Yeah, see, I should have already been to the bottom by now. Still going, still going. All right, I could fish that cast, and a lot of people would, and that bait's probably out in 40 feet. I don't want to do that. I might have missed my mark just 2 or 3 feet to the left, and I need to be up on that lip more, but I'm trying to skirt the edge. Bad cast, reel it in, scoot it over about 2 or 3 more feet, and try to get where you need to be. Don't waste time. Be more efficient on the water, and make a try to make that perfect cast. I think that's it right there. See, when I'm idling like this, I'm covering a big span, and right back there I saw 2 or 3 really bigger fish. It wasn't a big school, and it's not what I'd like to look for, like on an area to start, or where I felt like I could catch a lot of fish over a 2 or 3 day period, but it might be 2 big ones down there. And I've had a lot of times where I'll stop on an area like that and cull a 3-pounder with a 6-pounder. Made all the difference in the world. So you had to stop, you know. Just fun fishing like we're doing right now for illustrations and all. I'm not going to stop on that type of stuff, but don't be scared to stop on an area where you think is a couple big ones if you've got 5 in the live well and you need a cull. And they look like bass.